Boston Red Sox have had a very interesting month of June so far. They are 19-4 in June. They've gone on a massive streak here in June. They have passed both the Rays and the Blue Jays in the standings. They've only gained half a game on the Yankees, so the Yankees have been ridiculous the whole season. But they have the top wildcard spot in the American League and second place in the AL East. It is a good spot to be in heading into this stretch of a lot of divisional games. My name is Derek. I'm here with Jeremy, Joey. We're going to cover the Red Sox hot month in June and a couple of relief trade options they could target come the trade deadline. You're watching all that here and more right here on Bleacher, Brawls, and let's get into it. So first off, before we start, this is going to be our new weekly Red Sox show, so make sure to keep an eye out for every week right here on the YouTube channel with me, Joey, Jeremy. We're going to do this every week. If you guys get topics you want to cover, let us know on Twitter, and we'll try and cover them. But we're going to start it off. I'll throw it off to Joey first. Red Sox, I'm not going to say it, but they've been very impressive in the month of June. Your take on the Red Sox month so far as we are at June 26th right now?
Don't call it a comeback. Second place. I made the prediction a while ago that they could touch first, and after the Yankees have been no hit, all of our enemies seem to be going down, and we seem to be going up. So I like the trajectory, especially with the injuries that are going on right now with Evaldi and Whitlock. I mean, it's really impressive that they've been able to keep up this sort of production. But this is a gamer team. Like last year, remember we had all the COVID IL stuff. We had guys that had never played in the league before, 4A guys coming up, and we survived. We kept playing. We stood in it. So this team fights, and whatever we had to deal with in the first month was very rough. But we've come back, and the team's on a trajectory to the sky right now.
Yeah, it's been very impressive. Like I said, 19-4 in the month, and yes, there's been injuries and stuff like that, but there have been guys to pick up the slack. Josh Winkowski, even Cutter Crawford for a couple starts, and there's been other guys, Jaron Duran, Rob Refsnyder. There's a bunch of guys who come in and pick up the slack for injuries of Kike Hernandez and Nathan Evaldi, Garrett Whitlock. So Jeremy, I want to throw it over to you though. What has the contribution from these guys meant to the Red Sox for now, but also for the future, and getting a sneak peek at what they could provide next year and maybe even beyond?
So to Joey's point, last year, it was a grind for them with all the setbacks that they had, and in similar fashion, what they had. Beginning of the year started off really slow, and it seemed like at the beginning of the year, when they needed a hit, or they needed an out, or they just needed something to keep it going or to get it started, they just weren't getting it. Like you'd see a situation where a couple guys on base and Kike's up, and you're like, okay, well, this is an out. Now it's kind of flipped, and Kike's still struggling, although he's been out. But, you'd have Jackie Bradley Jr. come up. And of course, if anybody railed on Jackie Bradley Jr., it was me, because I hated that trade. But even now of late, if we really need something to happen, it seems like they're starting to put it together. When they do make contact, it's not going right to people. And I know that was something I heard a lot too, that, when they get hits, it's getting hit right to guys. But also their defense has improved. The blunders are, dropping, right? Bobby D, for all the grief he has been getting, hasn't been too bad lately. So it really seems like from this standpoint, it's similar fashion of last year. When they need something to happen, they get it. But the question mark still remains the bullpen.
Yeah, but I think too that also plays into like the guys they've called up, like I said, Winkowski, Crawford, Duran, Refsnyder. They've given the Red Sox what they needed at the times. They've given the Red Sox what they need when they need it, and that's been huge for the Red Sox. Duran the other day went 4 for 5 with 2 stolen bases. We wouldn't have seen that last year from him. Rob Refsnyder has been pretty good for the Red Sox when he's played. Josh Winkowski's looked amazing in the rotation. And now it's starting to become a question of, do you put Whitlock in the bullpen and roll with Winkowski now in the rotation? That could be becoming a question. I'm saying that could become a question. Not that it will happen, but it could become a question.
Well, the funny thing is, are the people that came up, the kids, the prospects that came up and were bad and are now – like Winkowski and Duran last year that are actually playing. I mean, last year, Duran was at the point where he was he was hitting so badly that he was using the the Ty Cobb batting stance with his hands separated just to get some contact on the ball. I mean, that's how out of it this guy was, doing that in the major leagues. And now he's having these types of games. He's here. He's here. He's a player now. He can be here regularly because no matter what happens, he goes into a slump. Obviously, I don't think he's going to stay like this for the whole year, but at least we know he can perform at a major league level now. And I think that's important with Winkowski too, and Cutter Crawford, like all these guys who might have come up at different points this year or different points last year, not been good. They've now been seasoned enough where they can go and perform for this Red Sox team.
Yeah, and I think also should be stated, Kike was struggling in that leadoff spot. He had an OPS under 600. Arroyo was struggling in that kind of outfield role, struggling defensively in the outfield, and even at the plate. I think playing the outfield, may have caused him to struggle. And having an extra outfielder, whether it's Duran or Refsnyder full time, is going to help Arroyo in some sense. And like Arroyo just came back up the injury list, this new team that's on a roll. And what do you know? He has a massive night that helps the Red Sox win. But one of my key touching points I do want to make before we move on to the reliever market is Alex Verduga. It seemed early in the season, everything was hitting it, like you said, Jeremy, right at guys. But he's gotten on a hot streak lately. And, he's been like, he just had that 3-run homer last night that basically gave the Red Sox the win.
Yeah, and Verduga, seems to be coming out of it. And I think to your point, right, there's relief coming within the lineup, right? Start of the season, you had Xander, you had Rafi, you had JD. They were the only guys hitting. Other guys just weren't getting it done. So I think, as far as pitching standpoint, right, teams are going to pitch differently because they're starting to get hot. And I think Verduga is a benefactor of that. Now he can be more comfortable at the plate because it's not all on him to try to get something done.
Yeah, that's huge. The Red Sox in the month of June have a 113 weighted runs created plus. That is 8th best in the MLB. But also to go look at their pitching. Their pitching's been amazing this month. They're first in the major leagues in ERA in June with a 2.69 ERA. They've been stellar. They are second with FIP with a 3.28 FIP. And they're 8th with a 3.78 expected FIP. But at the end of the day, the one big one that matters is the ERA because that's the actual runs that score, and they're first by a long margin. It's really not even close. The gap that they have to the second best team. The Red Sox have a 2.69 ERA. The Rays 2.81. That's like 11.11, which doesn't seem like much, but realistically it is. And then the next closest is the Yankees at 3.01. And then the gap just gets bigger from there to 4th and 5th.
So the question I have with that, right, we've got Walker and Hill, who have both, in my opinion, eye test, have been pitching better than to be expected. Now, are we saying that's going to be lightning in the bottle for the first half of the season? Can they possibly keep this going? That's what makes me a little skittish. And, we really need to have that bullpen depth.
Yeah.
When it comes to this topic, Luke likes to always talk about that, Pavetta's the ace and it's not Evaldi because I guess Evaldi had one bad game and that means he's not the ace anymore. But if you look at the stats objectively, I mean, you put your hand in front of Michael Wacha's name and just look at his stats. He's the ace. I mean, it's not disputed. I mean, what is he, 9-1 with a 2.5 ERA, something like that, right?
I think it's like a 2.30.
He's been unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been good. Also, too, I think we can expect Wacha to continue this, or at least near to this. Maybe even if I think maybe a 3 ERA the rest of the season is somewhat reasonable. Maybe he falls off a little bit, but not too much. He's had good years before, and it looks like he's really found that form. Rich Hill, we don't know, but we got to remember, hey, Chris Sale, he's injured. Hey, James Paxton, he's injured. They both have to come back yet. And Sale seems somewhat close. He'll be making his third rehab start on Thursday with Portland at AA.
Actually see Chris Sale pitch again.
Fingers crossed. But you got guys like Winkowski who have stepped up, and Whitlock's injured right now. And look, Seabold's making the start in Toronto today when this video goes up. Seabold's making that start in Toronto the day this video goes up tomorrow, which is today when you see this video. And then also too, you got to look at it. You still got Bayo in AAA, and he's been ridiculous in AAA. He just had another great outing tonight, as of recording yesterday when this video gets uploaded, where he threw like over 100 pitches, and he was still sitting 98 at 100 pitches, no problem. So the Red Sox have the pitching depth. It's just so if like Rich Hill starts to fall off, they still have guys they can go to.
Yeah, it's true. The depth is there. That's something I have forgotten about with what's going on, down in AAA and things coming up. It's a good thing to see, right? The way that they've pitched, the way that they've done it. And I'll admit it, when the season started and, the JBJ trade and really no signing for pitching other than Waka and Hill and that, I was really thinking, what kind of team are they really putting together here? And it's making me eat my words. This is coming together quite nicely. It just, got off the ground a little bit later than we started. And I know Luke's going to watch this, and I know Luke's going to be like, I told you so. And I'm going to say this right now, Luke. Yeah. You know what? You had something there when you were saying, hey, short spring training, it's April, here we go. And I think we're starting to see that now.
Yeah, and this team's too talented on paper. We haven't even brought up, the big three of Bogarts, Devers, and Martinez. Also, Trevor Story has been brought up. Vasquez hasn't been brought up. He's been good. So then there's still those guys we haven't brought up, and they've all been key parts to this Red Sox team this year as well. So they should be mentioned. But the Red Sox, they're 42-31 right now. They're a game and a half ahead of the Rays and the Blue Jays. Second place in the AL East, first wild card in the AL. It's been a great stretch for them. However, there have been questions about one part of this team, even in this hot stretch, and that's been the bullpen. So there's a couple options the Red Sox could look at. First one I'll bring up is Ian Kennedy. I'll mention him real quickly. He's not the big right now, but he's with the Diamondbacks. He has this year Kennedy has a 3.55 ERA in 29 outings out of the bullpen, but the underlying stats aren't amazing. But these are the next two are the main two we're going to focus on. David Robertson and Daniel Bard. We'll get to Bart quickly, but David Robertson, obviously a former Yankee, and he's been stellar this year. 27 innings for him this year. He's got a 1.95 ERA, 2.86 expected ERA, 3.48 FIP, and a 3.19 expected FIP. I'll go to Joey first. David Robertson, thoughts on him and what he could potentially, where he could fit in for the Red Sox.
I don't know if I love the idea of picking up David Robertson. I mean, if he's cheap, I think it's a good thing to have another arm in the bullpen, another experienced arm to go to in a situation. I mean, that, he's not that much dissimilar to Adam Ottavino, and Adam Ottavino was, very helpful for a large part of last season. I just don't know about picking up a guy with that type of mileage on his arm in the second half of the season, right? Those guys, they tend to, they do well in the first half, and then by the second half and the dog days, their arms run out and they're not feeling very good. I would certainly like some assistance in the bullpen, but I wouldn't want him in a closer role. I think the closer role just has to be occupied by Houck at this point. But as a setup man, I think he could definitely be serviceable.
Yeah, and with already the Red Sox finding something in Schreiber and I'm just going to keep it to right-handed relievers now. It's Houck, Schreiber, and who else really? Robles when he's on, but he has to be on because, like I've said, he can be elite when he's on, but the problem is he's not on a lot of the time. He gets those streaks where he's on, but he also can have those times where he's off and he looks horrible. You need consistency. So I'll go to Jeremy with the next option out of the bullpen. And this is a fun one for Red Sox fans. Daniel Bard, pitched for the Red Sox, obviously, from 2009 to 2013. 2010 was his star year, a 1.93 ERA. And then, obviously, in 2011, he still had another good year out of the bullpen. Red Sox tried to make him a starter. All went wrong. After 2013, he was out of the MLB and didn't pitch in the MLB for 6 years until 2020 with the Rockies. And this year, he has a 1.88 ERA, a 2 expected ERA, a 3.15 FIP, and a 3.27 expected FIP in 28 and 2/3 innings. And he also has 15 saves for the Rockies. Jeremy, how do you like the fit? Do you like it, dislike it?
Just Rocky could have that many save opportunities?
Yeah, he's got 15 saves. Yeah, I don't know how.
That must have been the beginning of the year, back when they, were on fire to start off the season. So that might be most of his opportunities there. But Daniel Bard, bringing him back, I think it would be a great fit. He's been there before. He's actually pitched very well. It was just when they really tried to move him to being a starter, and then he went back, and then it just seemed like he could never get comfortable because his role just kept changing. And I think that's what led down to it. You know, he was out of the league for a little bit. When guys change position and they can't get comfortable, it really does affect them. And even, you know, hitting wise too, when you change things up like that, it can affect them mentally, to the point where it takes them a long time to get over it. And it seems like Daniel Bart has found his groove again and has found his pitch. So it all comes down to cost, right? What do the Rockies need? And, you know, what are we willing to give up for that? And that's the question mark. And even going back to like the Cubs with Robertson as well, there's a price there. And, you know, the Cubs, for instance, they're going to want offense. They don't have anybody for offense. And of course, yeah, we got a wealth of that. But is, you know, Kyle Bloom going to really, you know, give up anything for that? So that's what I'm most interested to see. What is the price of these guys and what is, you know, I'm really going to do?
Yeah, but you also have to remember, too, at the end of the day, they're both 37-year-old relievers on one-year deals. So the price isn't going to be too high. And they're not the elite level relievers. Like if the Braves are bad, you would have had Kenley Jansen on the market. These guys aren't anywhere near that level. However, they can still be solid relievers on a good team. And that's what the Red Sox need, especially from the right-hand side. The left-hand side, it seems like they have figured with Strahm and Davis and Diekman occasionally when he doesn't walk everyone. And Josh Taylor will be coming back.
I guess here's the question: is anybody going to take Barnes? Because I'm in favor of
no one's going to take him. No one's touching Matt Barnes. You have to just
Korea will take him.
I
don't think he's good enough for Japan. He has to play in Korea now.
I don't even know.
I was thinking, but you brought up left-handed relievers. What's Darwin Hernandez doing these days?
He's injured. And he was pitching terrible in AAA as well.
But yeah, he was moved to a starter, right?
Yeah, well, he was moved to a starter to get more innings with him in AAA to try and work out his control issues. But he wasn't pitching great, and then he got injured, knee injury, and I think he has to have knee surgery, or he's already had it.
So they kind of Daniel Barted him when you think about it.
Well, they didn't move him to be a starter. They just had him start the game. He was more like a 2-inning opener.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
You know, you're talking about great stuff from the left side. I'd like to see that show up at one point. I mean, 100 miles per hour coming from the left side is, you know, pretty rare.
I just don't know if he's going to be healthy, 1, and 2, if he can. It doesn't matter how good your stuff is if you can't control it.
Right. You got to eliminate it.
But we're supposed to be able to expect Josh Taylor very soon, right?
Somewhat soon, yes.
So
he's rehabbing right now.
So we'll have that for a lefty in the bullpen, and I think, you know, we can't all forget that month or 2-month stretch he had where he was the best reliever in baseball. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the Red Sox, like I said, the Chaim Bloom's one thing he's preached this whole time while he's been here is depth. And the Red Sox have pitching depth. They can even bring up a guy like a Bayo or any of the other starters in AAA that have come up recently. They can be put in the bullpen at the end of the year if needed there as well. So the Red Sox have more than enough options open to them on what they want to do. And you could also maybe even see Whitlock back to the bullpen if he can't work his way back up with that hip injury where Cora said he was walking like an old man. So, yeah, that's not the greatest thing you want to hear about your guy. He signed to a 6-year deal, but hopefully he'll get healthy. Hopefully Sale will get healthy. Hopefully Paxton will get healthy. Taylor and Kike, everyone who's injured right now, hopefully they'll get healthy. The Red Sox get lucky with injuries and stay healthy and, you know, build up a good roster that can make a deep run in the playoffs. Because if they play like they are now in October, they can make a run. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
So final thought I've got is, you know, rolling into this, and we're getting close to the All-Star break. The Red Sox are, and I say this surprisingly where, you know, I thought they'd be before the season started. And that thrills me, right? I'm totally shocked at how they started to where they're at now. The moves, what it comes down to is, you know, what are we giving up to keep going? But not only that, what are the Blue Jays going to do? And I don't know if the Rays are going to do anything. Usually there's not a big, you know, trade or anything for them to get going. But I am really interested to see what the Blue Jays are going to do because they're starting to fall a little bit. And are they going to make a big splash? So I think it is well within reason to think that they're going to go out there and do something to really, you know, get back into this.
if the Blue Jays thing, they're gonna make a big splash. The Rays thing is just get your pitchers healthy because they have like 10 pitchers on the injured list. So that's the Rays thing. Just get your pitchers healthy. And then the Red Sox, get everyone you have injured, hopefully get them healthy, playing well, and just try and build in the surrounding pieces that you need because the core pieces are there.
And trade Matt Barnes. Get rid of Matt.
And
Barnes.
trade Matt Barnes.
That's not. I wish it would happen, but it's not going to happen, unfortunately.
And
no one's taking that much. No, Diekman hasn't been terrible besides walking people.
Oh, Doug's gonna love this.
Yeah. Diekman can stay for now. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap this one up. Make sure to check out this weekly Red Sox show every week. We haven't named it yet, but we'll try and figure that out. Make sure to check out all the links in the description, the website, podcast, Instagram, Twitter, plus all the crew's Twitters. Make sure to listen to our podcast. We have a weekly Red Sox podcast as well. We also have our video tomorrow, Tuesday, the 28th, will be on Jordan Alvarez. Wednesday, we have a prospect pipeline covering Twins pitching prospect Simeon Woods Richardson. Thursday, we'll have a video covering all-star voting and whether fans should actually be allowed to vote. And then on Friday, we should have a Yankees video. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the whole week goes as planned. But that's going to wrap it up. For Jeremy and Joey, I'm Derek. Thanks for tuning in to Bleacher Brawls, and we'll see you next time.